The station was a blur of motion, a symphony of hurried footsteps and echoing announcements. But for Amir, it was a silent, lonely stage. He stood anchored to a spot near the platform, his gaze fixed on the glowing red numbers of the digital clock. 6:55 a.m., 5 minutes. 5 minutes was all he had left. 5 minutes to either escape or be swallowed whole by his failure. For 10 years, Amir had played by the rules. He'd poured his soul into his work, climbing the ladder one honest, grueling step at a time. Estayet latte, camein, early sacrificed weekends, and waited patiently for the promotion he was promised. He was the perfect employee, the model of dedication. And last night, all of it was erased by a single, sterile email. The words were burned into his memory. Position filled. Thank you for your dedication. One cold sentence to dismantle a decade of his life. 10 years of loyalty vanished. He took a step closer to the edge of the platform, the rumble of the approaching train vibrating through the soles of his shoes. This train wasn't just a mode of transport. It was his lifeline, his one-way ticket out of the city and away from the ghost of his career. Missing it wasn't an option. Missing it meant everything he had meticulously planned. His entire escape route would crumble into dust. He had sold his car, ended his lease, packed his life into 2 suitcases. There was no going back. Just as he tensed, ready to board, a small, hesitant voice cut through his internal chaos. "Excuse me, sir." Amir flinched, turning to find a young boy standing beside him, almost lost beneath a backpack that seemed comically large for his small frame. The boy's eyes were wide, shimmering with unshed tears. "I'm lost," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the station's noise. Amir's eyes darted back to the clock. 6:57 a.m. 3 minutes. Every instinct screamed at him to ignore the boy, to say, "Sorry, kid, can't help you," and step onto that train. His future was on that train. His escape, his sanity. He closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, the battle raging within him. Helping this child meant sacrificing his own meticulously planned rescue. Walking away meant saving himself, but leaving a lost boy to fend for himself in this chaotic place. It was a choice between his future and his conscience. A heavy sigh escaped his lips, a white flag of surrender to the better part of himself he thought he'd lost. He knelt down to the boy's level. "What's your name?" Amir asked, his voice softer than he expected. "Rayan?" The boy sniffled. "Okay, Rayan. Don't worry, we'll find your parents." He led the boy to a nearby bench, away from the rushing crowds. He pulled out his phone and called the station's security, his voice calm and steady as he explained the situation, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside him. The seconds ticked by, each one a hammer blow to his hopes. He could hear the train pulling into the station now, the screech of brakes, the hiss of the doors opening. He saw the surge of people, a river of humanity flowing into the metal belly of the beast that was supposed to carry him away. He watched as the door slid shut with a final, unforgiving thud. The train began to move, slowly at first, then picking up speed, carrying his plans, his escape, his future, away into the morning light. It was gone, and he was still here. A few minutes later, which felt like an eternity, a frantic couple rushed towards them, their faces etched with panic that melted into overwhelming relief. Rayan, the woman swept the boy into a fierce hug, tears streaming down her face. They were Rayan's parents. They turned to Amir, their gratitude overflowing in a torrent of thank yous. He managed a weak smile, nodding as they praised his kindness, but inside, he felt a profound emptiness. Felt broken. He had done the right thing, but it had cost him everything. That night, Amir sat in his now empty apartment, the silence amplifying the replay of the morning's events in his mind. The clock, the boy, the train pulling away. 5 minutes. That's all it took. 5 minutes to choose kindness, and in doing so, lose everything he had worked towards. The irony was suffocating. 10 years of dedication, gone in a sentence. A lifetime of plans, gone in 5 minutes. Days turned into a week. Amir was adrift, navigating a sea of uncertainty. He was jobless, directionless, and stuck. Then, one afternoon, a sharp knock echoed through his apartment. He opened the door to find a man in a perfectly tailored suit, and standing next to him, holding his hand, was Ryan. "I'm his father," the man said, his voice warm and steady. "I wanted to come thank you in person, my wife, and we can't express how grateful we are." He invited them in. They sat and talked, not just about the incident at the station, but about life, about choices, about the moments that define us. Amir found himself opening up, sharing the story of his job, his lost promotion, his failed escape. The man listened intently, his gaze thoughtful. As they were about to leave, the man handed Amir a sleek, minimalist business card. "I appreciate what you did more than you know," he said. "You chose to help a stranger when you had every reason to walk away. That says a lot about your character. Come see me tomorrow." The next morning, Amir found himself not in a crowded train station, but in a spacious, quiet office overlooking the city. The man, Ryan's father, sat across from him. "I own several companies," he explained, getting straight to the point. "The world is full of ambitious, talented people. They're easy to find. What's hard to find is integrity. I need people in my organization who, when faced with a difficult choice, will choose people over personal convenience. People who do the right thing, especially when it's the hard thing." Amir felt a familiar tightness in his chest, but this time it wasn't despair. It was hope. Weeks later, he found himself standing at that same train station. He looked at the same clock, stood on the same platform, but everything felt different. He wasn't there to escape. He was on his way to his new job, a position created for him, one that valued his character as much as his skills. He looked at the tracks and finally understood. We spend so much of our lives racing towards a destination, convinced that any delay is a disaster. But sometimes, what feels like a devastating detour is actually the path. Sometimes, missing the train you thought you needed is the only way to end up exactly where you're supposed to be. What feels like a delay is actually a course correction, a moment of grace that puts you on the right track. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content that explores the unexpected turns in life. See you in the next one.